GCUC is a global coworking and conference community. We've had our fingers on the pulse of coworking since 2012, and we've connected thousands of operators, both in person and online. On the GCUC Podcast, we talk with the people making it happen day in and day out. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the GCUC Podcast. Today's guest is someone who's helped shape the coworking landscape in Canada and beyond. Kane Willmott is a co-founder and CEO of IQ Offices and my good friend. He's built one of the most respected flexible workspace brands in the world with a new location just launched and continued growth on the horizon. We're going to talk about what he's learned from his latest opening, why he's working with my firm, Bottle Rocket, to recruit, and his views on where the market is headed and how his passion for triathlons has helped him lead and scale his business. If you want insights from someone who's been in the trenches and is still innovating, this is your episode. Let's jump in. Good morning, Kane.
Good morning, Liz. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I think I always open up with, how are you? So how the heck are you?
I'm good. It's summertime in Canada. You know, we complain about the heat, we complain about the cold, but it's nice to be able to get outside every day and exercise and, not be stuck in the basement.
Yeah, I have to do my dog walks very early in the morning or late at night because otherwise it's just at least 90 out Fahrenheit. So I have to be very careful about that. But speaking of morning routines, I feel like my morning routine is like a part of my success. And so I'm asking everybody that comes on the GCUC Podcast, what does your morning routine look like?
Yeah, I've been listening to your intros and your podcasts and talking about you'd mentioned about meditation. I've tried meditation. I'm terrible at it, like really, really bad at it and really bad at sticking to it. But my morning routine is exercise. So usually I'm training for a race of some sort, whether it be an Ironman or a marathon or something along those lines. I just started doing that 4 years ago, but I really found it grounding. It's my meditation in the morning. Get out for a run or get out for a bike ride or a swim or whatever it is. It's like I feel like I need it, and I have I have one day a week, which is Monday usually, and I find that day a struggle because it's just I don't have that morning routine of being able to get up and just kind of be in my own head and just just kind of like process the day before we get started.
It's interesting. I read something recently that part of the reason why a walk is so good for you, maybe you just walk on Monday, is once you kind of get into a rhythm, your eyes start tracking back and forth, and you actually are kind of waking up both sides of your brain simultaneously. So, I think a walk would be great. By the way, as you know, I'm in recovery, and so I've been trying to meditate for a long time. And this year, I have successfully meditated almost every morning of this year. There's two reasons for that. One is I got diagnosed because it's hereditary with super high blood pressure. I've got it on both sides of my family. And so I'm like, I have to meditate for my health. So Health Scare helped motivate me. And then the other thing was I've used the Headspace app since 2015. And they have a morning one that comes out that's different every single morning. You can make it 5 minutes, you can make it 10 minutes, you can make it 15 minutes. And I just sit there and do 10 minutes every day. I don't know what it does. I don't know that it's changing my life, but I just do it anyway.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's so good to do it. I think there's incremental gains that are happening that you don't see. Like I see that on like the endurance side where you don't have progress, but you are, just show up every day and just do it. And have you ever heard Muse, M-U-S-E? Muse?
No.
It's a headset that you put on, and it measures your brain waves while you meditate. And so yeah, I'm obsessed with data. And so this is how I tried to convince myself to get into meditation because it's kind of like the idea of like, am I making progress? Am I doing well? So you actually listen to the app. And when your brain waves start, it's like a little EKG. So like when your brain waves to calm, there's like bird chirping sounds. So you can actually like lower your heart rate and you can hear the chirping sounds. And it actually is like, it's so cool. Like I really have no excuse because I have that device. I have no excuse not to do it. But
I've been talking about my ring for 3 years. The first thing I do every morning is look at my sleep data. First thing every morning. I'm super annoyed because my deep sleep has been terrible lately. So I would absolutely love that. I'm definitely going to look into it. But, you mentioned your training. You're a super committed triathlete. How does the training for triathlons help you show up as a leader and run your business?
That's really interesting. So I didn't start until I turned 49. Before that, I would run, and I was so I would go run and go to the gym, and I would do the usual things to kind of just check the boxes in terms of fitness. But when I was, I don't know, 50 wasn't a problem, but 49 for whatever reason was. And it was I started thinking about how many more years I have to do all the things I love to do, like skiing and surfing and, all the active things that I love doing.
Yeah.
And I thought, it was during COVID, and I thought, how do I extend the quality of my life? And when fitness is and activities are such a big part of it, how do I stay fit, And that was literally it. I thought I'd do one. I didn't think I'd do any more than one. I wasn't even going to finish it. And I thought if I can just train to get to one, then I can see what my fitness level can get to, right? And I don't know, it became addictive. I don't know, the suffering is addictive for some reason.
It's interesting. It was watching my dad die and then watching my stepmom pass away and then really having a ton of death happen that I really was and it's not until you're faced with death that you figure out how much you want to live. We just go about it you don't sit around and think about it, but all of a sudden when it's in your face, it really changes things. And so I started out with Orange Theory during the pandemic, and I did that super religiously for years. And then I kept reading all this stuff about women and menopause and that you need to lift heavy. So I got a trainer and I started lifting real heavy. And I've been doing that for 2.5 years. And now I'm so strong and now totally addicted and I love it. Where it used for about 3 weeks, I had to force myself to go. And now I want to go every time. I'm time to work out.
Yep. Yeah. It's a routine. So I'm getting to your question, Liz. But
sorry. I digress.
You were asking how it affects the business. No.
Yeah.
I took us off on a tangent, which, never happens. So with regards to that, what I found was when you look at endurance sports, you build up endurance fairly quickly, actually, just like your strength, right? When you're doing your strength training, it doesn't really take that long. After a while, you plateau. But at the beginning, you start to notice that, you can't go to the gym once and be fit. You have to do it as a routine. When you do it as a routine and you show up every day, over time, you can actually track the progress and see that, you are changing very slowly in your eyes. But in short periods of time, you can accomplish so much, right? And that's what I see about the business. I see those incremental gains and looking at goals, like sprints where you're saying, let me get this thing done this quarter. And if I get this thing done this quarter, that is success. What will this year look like if I put 4 quarters together and achieve 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And when you do that, and you focus on it every single day, you can get some huge gains by going up and focusing on the right things all the time. It's so easy to be in reaction. And if we go back to the analogy of fitness, when you wake up in the morning, do you really want to go and put on your shoes and go outside and because it's too hot or it's too cold or it's too rainy or it's, wouldn't it be better just to go and grab your coffee and get in the car and drive to work? Right? You're always battling against reaction, right? And so with a business, like with fitness, it's like resisting gravity, constantly resisting gravity. Your mind is always telling you you don't want to do it, right? And I convince it. Some days you feel like it, okay, but a lot of days you don't, and you have to wake up and say, no, there's a bigger reason why I'm doing this, and it's about the fact that this run says something about who I am and what I'm committed to, and as a company, it's the same thing, right? Who are we and what are we committed to? And even though it might be uncomfortable and it might be difficult in the chaos of reaction, you get it done because it's who you are and it's where you want to go. And you can create just great gains as a result of that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And that's going to be our audio clip. I've already decided. And, it's interesting. Mel Robbins does a thing where she's when you know that you woke up and you need to get on your walk, you just do 3, 2, 1 and you get up. Don't think about it. Just do it. And I have to use that sometimes.
Yeah.
Most of the time I can just keep doing it, but those are great insights as always. So congratulations. IQ recently opened a new location that's absolutely fantastic, gorgeous, very beautifully designed. What can you share about that launch, and what's the one big lesson you learned from this launch?
Oh, one big lesson. I'll try and drill it down. Just to give
or three.
Yeah. Okay, great. You give me more. Okay, perfect. So just to give you like a little bit of set the table, the landscape. So we started in 2012. Our first location was 12,000 square feet. We grew based on profitability, meaning that we had to be profitable on our first one to be able to raise money for our second one, and we had to be profitable long for paying back our investors. So the investors said, yes, you're giving me back some money. Okay, this looks good. Seems like you may know what you're doing. I'll give you a little bit more. And then you go into your next location. And so we grew that way. So we now have 260,000 square feet total across 4 markets: Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and it's in 8 locations. So this location, our average location size is now, even though our first location was 12,000 feet, our average location size is now 30,000 feet. There's some, the different sizes, but average is 30,000 feet. So this new location is a full building, 60,000 square feet at the corner of King and Bay. So if you look in Canada, King and Bay is the undisputed best corner for commerce in the country. And so it's very much a recognizable corner. And this building sits like just one building in from the corner because there's a podium of First Canadian Place, and it's connected to the path. It's 60,000 feet. And we took it down as a sublease for 22 years from a bank.
Wow.
And us to the entire building. So the bank essentially just handed us the keys because they didn't want anything to do with anything to do with the construction or anything to do with that, because they were a subtenant. So we got the keys and we did everything. So we removed furniture, we removed, TVs, and, so did all the demo right back to studs and then built it all back up again. When we did this location, we had some time because we had a pause in growth for COVID. During COVID, I spent a lot of time, and we have collectively as a team spent a lot of time looking at like, what is it that makes people want to come to the office? Like, of course, we were hyper on that because we live and die by that. And we traveled. We saw some really cool things, in Australia, Hub Australia, did some tours there, that was a little bit later on in the process, but we also went to the UK. We went to New York, we went to, all the markets to try and look at what do we see? What we found was hotels. Hotels were just so far ahead of what we were doing in terms of amenitization, right, within the space, and making you feel like when you walk into a hotel lobby and it's really nice and the music's playing and there's people there, and it has that feeling, right? And we're all hospitality brands. But when we got this building, it was built in 1917, had all these beautiful natural elements to it, like mezzanine piece, and I could send you all of the photos on it. But it's just really a stunning building itself. And then what we had to do was pay homage to the beauty of the building, right? And so we got the opportunity to build this building where we control the experience right from the doorstep all the way through, where we are a subtenant, in fact, of the building, but operating costs are 100% to us because we're the only tenant in the building. So now we're taking more control over things like window cleaning and things that have to do with the building. So we're starting to see some migration of our service offering into that. So, but what I would say we've learned from this building, and something we focused on recently, and I would say one of the biggest learnings is looking at who our customer is. So since COVID is a huge trend of Fortune 500 companies and very large enterprise that are now using coworking. So what we're finding is, especially within our larger suites, the small to medium-sized founder-led businesses are leaving and going to show suites because, like, I'm super biased, but I think it's because they're being fooled by the rent on a monthly basis, and they think, oh, I'm paying a fraction of what I'm paying, at IQ. So I'll go over here and save all this money. What I don't think they're taking into account, and this is based on discussions that I've had with brokers and members as well, is the actual cost of running space.
Right. They're not monetizing the person that they're paying to figure out the printing, or how are we going to get the people coffee?
Yes. What's so interesting is when you look at these larger companies, the Fortune 500s and the large enterprise, they're starting to speak in the same language we speak in. They're like, I need this many desks and this many memberships.
Yeah.
Right. And they're saying that because they're actually saying, I need to accommodate this many people on a full-time basis and this many people on an as needed basis. Right. That's how they're thinking. They're not thinking in at least the teams that we're talking with are not thinking in square footage anymore. Right. And so what we're seeing is the value prop that these large companies see in co-working is tremendous. Like when you talk to them, like they are ahead of us in the way that they are thinking about co-working and the value proposition. We think, flexibility, hospitality, community, right? They are thinking, no, speed. I want to get in there and I want to get up done fast. Agility. I want to be able to adjust to the amount of space that I need quickly, and like attracting, retaining, and engaging the best talent. That's what they care about, right? They are paying, 5 figures for that person sitting at that desk. Do they care about $200 a desk? No, they do not. That person, the productive value of that person. And when you look at like companies like NVIDIA, and they're talking in the hundreds of millions per head, okay, in terms of the productive value of the employees, that then, they want the best. They want the absolute best. They want it quick, and they want to ensure that they have an amazing experience when they're on site. And 5,000 square feet at the end of a hall of a big tower downtown doesn't do it. It doesn't give them the Cupertino experience, right? It doesn't, you just can't replicate it with a team of 50. You just can't. You can do it with a team of 300 because you can have a campus and you can activate the whole thing, but you just cannot do it with these smaller teams, right? So what I'm hearing and what we're seeing is a real push up in the size, which makes me feel like a little bit uncomfortable, because when we build these big suites, and they go big and you're like super concerned about it, but there's no big suites available in Toronto right now. Right. There's nothing like in the downtown core, there's nothing. So there is an overwhelming demand of that. So you're asking what I learned. So what I learned is that if you build really good quality product, you can push the upper tier on pricing. Yep. But you have to cater to the right customer that sees the value, right? So you have to be in the place, and you have to build it in such a way that really caters to their needs.
Yeah, I totally agree to that. And I think that's part of, recently I was in New York and I was at the Mallins location in the Flatiron that sold out in 2 weeks. And, it's highly stylized. Like, it actually freaks me out how nice the chairs are, because I know somebody's going to spill coffee on them. And, but that's what people want. That's what they are desiring. And it was interesting. I was working from a Malin this week and I was like, why do I like this so much? And I think part of it is I feel successful just walking in the door. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's like a feeling that a lot of people need to aspire to. And I think that's a lot of what you created at your new space, right? It's like you walk in and you're like, I'm here, so I must be a success.
That is the idea. When it's interesting because when you think about community, you can have so many different connotations, right? You can think about community from the perspective of, like belonging. Like you come in and it's like, oh, well, we all hang out together. Like there's so many forms of community, there's biking communities and running communities and, like E&D communities, So when I look at our company and I look at what we're building, we want to create that community of high achieving companies that are already doing it. Right? So when you come in, like one of the great things about going to work at one of these large organizations is just the feel of being a part of something that's really amazing, right? Yeah. So when you come into one of our spaces and you're surrounded by companies that are all like that, right? Then you get just like you had at the Malin, same idea. That's what we want to replicate. We're always thinking about that, to be like, when you come into this space, you should feel like you're in a space of high performers that are treated extremely well because they do the best. They are the best at what they do. And I think that becomes a community of people that you want to be around. That's inspiring.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So this new space has evolved a lot in design, amenities, and operations. What are some of the things that you are just super excited about in this space? Because I know you're doing some new things in it.
We are. So some things are, reaction, and some things are like trying to think ahead, right? Like we did a thermal therapy room at this location. So we have 2 cold plunges and an infrared sauna. So it's bookable resource, just like a meeting room. You can go into the space. We have towel service. We have washrooms and showers. And we were thinking this would be something interesting. Its reaction, because we had this room at like this windowless room at the back of one of the floors, and it was going to be our gym. Like, so we put on the floor plan gym, and it's like I just kept on, those like, something's nagging at you. You wake up in the middle of the night, and I just keep on thinking how terrible this gym experience is going to be. There's just no great gym experience. So I thought, well, what would be a good experience that we could put in there? And I was thinking about Other Ship, that's based out of Toronto, and, and cold plunge, and I love cold plunge. And, I thought this would be, what an amazing way to like wake up in the, at 2:00 in the afternoon when you're not, when you're having those doldrums, where you're kind of like, you're running out of energy maybe, and then just go for a cold plunge. Like, what a reset. Right. So I thought, okay, this would be like really interesting. We'll find out. I like, there's a couple of things that we've done, mostly my initiatives, that have been like, I call a pool in the condo. So you go and buy the condo because it had a pool and you never go to the pool.
Yeah.
So same sort of idea. We have treadmill phone booths in Vancouver and Montreal and Ottawa. And I thought these things would be amazing. It was the time when everybody was like checking their steps and that sort of thing. And no, I literally am the only person in the company that uses it.
I literally had the treadmill desk and I hated it so much, like, 8 years ago, because it took up so much space and it kind of made noise. And nobody used it and it was massive.
Yes. Yeah. So this one was my idea. It might be another pool in the condo. It might be because people are very complimentary, and like they are with the treadmill. They're like, "Oh, that's so cool." But then we might there. I don't know. I really don't know. We'll test it and I'll let you know.
You know what I had in my co-working space, which is also hilarious because I'm sober, is I put a bar cart in the kitchen and stocked it full of alcohol. And on the tour, everybody was like, "That's amazing." No one ever used it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we would use it for events and then we just parked it in the kitchen. No one ever used it. We thought people would be like making themselves cocktails every day. No, it just sat there. But on the tour, everybody talked about it.
Hey there. If you're in the co-working and flex space industry, or even just curious about it, you need to be at Juicy. We've got 2 amazing events lined up for you. First up, GCUC, happening this October in London. Tickets are on sale now and the lineup is looking incredible. Can't make it across the pond? No problem. We've got you covered. GCUSA 2026 is headed to New York City and we'd love to see you there. At both events, you can expect expert-led sessions, small group roundtables, a vendor expo, and non-icky networking. We've got drinks, dinners, after-hour hangouts, and tours of the coolest co-working spaces in town. It's where the future of work meets real human connection. So, what are you waiting for? Head over to juicy.co to grab your ticket today. We'll save you a seat.
Yeah. I do think that like first impressions are so important. And when I always think about when we're designing our spaces, I think about when you're like house shopping or when you're apartment hunting, once you've seen 5 of whatever it is that you're going to look at, they all blend together and you can't remember which one had the washroom and which one had the bigger garage. And, you just forget, right? So I think about that, and I think about the customer journey of them going and seeing, 5 or 7 different co-working spaces. And so when we design it, I always think about like the entrance off the elevator as being like, that should be a real wow. And then beyond, there should be some things like the treadmill phone booth, like the thermotherapy room. That
I think that's a great point, Kane. It's always the spaces with something super unique and maybe a little bit wacky that you remember, right? Because you're like, oh yeah. And then like, I remember the first time, and this was a long time ago, I walked into a space that had a green wall. It was in Singapore. And I was like, this is it. Oh my God. And, I'll never forget. That was the first green wall I saw. It was a Collective Works, Jonathan O'Brien. And so I think that's a really great call. Okay. We're going to shift gears for a minute because I want to get some of your foresight thoughts, but also I want to thank you because you're using Bottle Rocket for a position. And so I'm curious what led you to prioritize that hire and what kind of a leader are you looking for?
That's a very good question. So in terms of the hire, so we're looking at hiring a director of accounting that's going to lead our accounting team. We've just moved over to the Yardi accounting system. And we were on QuickBooks, and it was a bit of a disaster because with 8 locations, Old Co, all these subs, every single month to do our reporting, we were literally having to drop everything down into spreadsheets and then do reference cells to do simple things like consolidated P&L and balance sheet. So creating all kinds of challenges. Reporting was one of them, but also to my access to information. I should be able to get consolidated information.
Yeah.
Like I should be able to go in like today and just see exactly. And QuickBooks, I would have to go in and like add it all up, or go to my accounting team and pull resources away from them in order to do these things. So we want to put someone into this role that's really going to oversee that and see and get some efficiencies around that, bring down our reporting timeline so that we can get, reporting within 15 days after the end of the month, because we're a little bit later than that right now. And clarity on the financials of the organization. Traction, you're also, so we just had an offsite earlier this week going through some of the early pieces of traction. And of course, there's the 3 big parts of every company, right? The accounting, sales and marketing, operations. Though every single company has all those things. So we have been weak on the accounting side because we've had a weak accounting system. And so now with a better accounting system, we're going to get more clarity and more access. And we really want to add sophistication around that. We have the information. We certainly use the metrics, but the timing and the access to that information makes us more reactive than we should be.
Yeah.
So we should be more proactive.
Yeah, I love that. And I was in Santa Barbara walking through Yardi at one point, and someone casually mentioned, it was a Friday, and they mentioned the dollar amount they had just run through Yardi on that floor. And I can't repeat it, but it was astounding. Like, those guys know accounting. It's insane.
They do. Absolutely. And it is centered around real estate, right? So that really is helpful as well. It's also something, because we're real estate that's our background. Mm-hmm. Sales, real estate ownership. So I've been familiar with Yardi as a property management software for 1 year. Right? So we're familiar with it. Landlords are familiar with it. So when you're using that accounting system, a lot of them are using that accounting system as well. So you're doing reporting to landlords, which is what we hope to be doing more in the future. That's going to match up nicely. So getting back to Bottle Rocket, I think, having someone who is on that side, going through the process and going out there, looking at that talent, really vetting them, taking all the time, that is so helpful, because it just takes a long time to sift through, first of all, the sea of resumes, number one. Yeah. And then number 2, lining everything up properly. That's a great thing about when you hire someone to do that role, they can really cut through all the minutia. And you don't have to sit in an hour interview with someone when you realize 5 minutes in that they're not the right person. Right.
Yeah. Yes. And, that's why I started Bottle Rocket, because I realized that the people were so critical to our future. And, all I'm trying to do is I want to help support every co-working operator to do better and expand more and grow and create more co-working in the world. And the number one thing that's critical in that is the people. We have to hire the best people. And the more I talk to people, it always comes back to, it's the people.
You know how our industry is such a great representation of why people is so important, because I'm sure you've experienced this, Liz. I've gone into some gorgeous co-working spaces that I'm like, wow, how much did they spend? And it's empty. And I've gone into some places that are run down that I look around and I'm like, are you kidding me? There's stains on the carpets. It's a drop ceiling. This thing was up in I don't think they have an R&M budget on this thing. And they're full with a waiting list. And it's all because of the experience and the human connection in that space. That's
100%. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need to know. Yeah.
Oh. So if you can put the two together, that's a peanut butter and chocolate,
Exactly. Yeah. This is one of those scenarios where we're in what I like to call violent agreement.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. So I've lately, and I've posted this a couple of times on LinkedIn, I am feeling a major momentum shift in co-working right now. And there's a lot of data behind it too, right? So WeWork's profitable for the first time ever. There was a very successful IPO in India. There's about to be a second one. One of the things I am so happy about is we are seeing about 2 spaces a day open in co-working somewhere, usually in the US, because that's kind of where I track my news from more. But we're seeing a lot of openings. We're seeing a lot of expansions. And I'm like, wow, this makes sense. We're 5 years past COVID. And then also, if you look at cities like San Francisco, New York, DC, that were in Chicago, that were all like, after COVID, they are all 100% back, all of them. So are you feeling that in Canada as well?
Oh, absolutely. The only market where we're seeing softness is Ottawa. We have a small location there, so it puts us in a fairly good spot in terms of risk mitigation. But the majority of the office space, or a big chunk of the office space downtown, is occupied by government, and a lot of the government aren't coming back. So when you have like a city that is so focused on one sector in order to stay full, in order to fill up the office buildings. So that one has a challenge. So we'll leave. I love Ottawa, but we'll leave it aside for a minute. Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal are booming. Like they're all kind of roaring back, right? We're not seeing occupancy at the same levels pre-COVID, not even close. But what we're seeing is a flight to quality. So there's a real dichotomy. So you have buildings that are within blocks of each other, that one has a waiting list. They're getting the highest net effective or the highest net rents that they've ever achieved. They're pushing the ceiling on the rates that they can get in the market. And you have a building that is 4 blocks away that is struggling to just try and keep the tenants that they have. They have high vacancy. So we're seeing that. We're seeing more return to office mandates. I just got a call last week about a bank that is looking at bringing over 400 people back to the office. They want to do it in kind of the immediate term. There is a lot of momentum of return to office. So we're seeing a lot of that. And they're going to the best quality assets. And then so what ends up happening is that as that they fill up, then the other ones fill up and gets better and better. But I think it's going to take a while for the ones that are in bad locations to get better. It's really interesting. Like what I see in the US and what I see in Canada is entirely different. The submarket, the periphery submarkets are not doing well. The downtown core are doing very well. And the downtown core, they're doing well because they have access to transit. Primarily access to transit and amenities. That's really what it comes down to it. And also quality of product. But I mean, that's where everybody wants to be. So in Toronto, Union Station is kind of like the center of the universe because that's where everything comes to, right? And so if you're, I think New York was the same, right? Midtown, getting access, right? So, but it will spread in time. But to your point, the momentum is there and people are coming back.
Well, it's interesting because I think Canada and Australia are very similar. Like I was talking to Brad a while ago and he's like, suburban is not happening here. And I was like, really? And suburban's 100% happening in the US like crazy, especially if, and I just really put it down to the walkability of the downtown, and which is amenities and et cetera. But, the walkable, beautiful cities came back better than the ones that don't. And we have a real problem with that in the US, and that's why Europe, because it's always been around transit, came back pretty great. It took a little time, but came back pretty great. So interesting watching the whole market.
Yeah. I think Europe, just as a little aside, I think Europe, it's a cultural thing. I think work is so much about connection and is so important. And people spend a lot of social time at work as opposed to just go and leave. And I think it's like going to see your friends every day. Why would you sit at home when you could go see your friends every day?
Okay, so I was just in Spain. I was at coworking Spain. It was awesome. And I was talking with somebody, and basically every single morning, this guy gets together with his guy friends and they have coffee and like a pastry and hang out before work for like an hour and a half. And I'm like, what? That's fantastic.
It is fantastic. Yeah. Amazing about the European culture.
Yeah, love it so much. Okay, I don't know where the time went. Well, I do. You and I could talk for 5 hours, but we won't make the audience go through that. Okay, so we're coming up on the 50th Juicy. It'll be our 5th in New York, and I know you've been to a lot of Juicies, but I want you to pare it down to what is your favorite core Juicy memory?
Oh gosh. You know what? Because I always say I have a great memory, but it's short. I'm going to go with the one which was our last one that we did, the New Balance. That race that we did. That race was pretty fun. So we did a race where we had blow up costumes, and basically we did like 100-yard dash in the arena, and that was a lot of fun. And if I could throw one more on, if you'll let me have one more.
Of course.
When we were in Salt Lake City, we did the Strava Juicy on the football field.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah. We used Strava to like everybody jog around these cones to write out the word juicy. And that was also a ton of fun. You pick such great venues, Liz. Amazing experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. We have, it's really hard, but sometimes it really works out. And sometimes it's really hard. I mean, the Kansas City Airline History Museum, which was like 2013 or something, was hysterical. Like there were so many things wrong and so many things right, but all everybody remembers is what a wacky venue it was. It was totally fun. I put a stage under a plane. It was so fun. And we had a session on a plane. It was so fun. Okay. So I could have asked you 100 more questions, but what should have asked you that I didn't?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, like, from the co-working side, one of the things that I've been able to use AI for. So we're all using AI.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. I forgot about your AI.
You love AI.
How could I?
AI.
I love it. I've started time blocking time just to work on AI.
Yes, same. So AI has become an integral part of our lives. You know, I've used the analogy. If you told me like I could only have like 3 apps on my phone, for sure, one of them would be ChatGPT.
I love this question.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be like Mail, Teams, ChatGPT. If that's basically.
Mail would not be on mine. I do not look at mail on my phone unless it's a dire emergency.
Oh, right. That sounds dreamy. Oh, yeah. I just tried to keep up with the emails. But so I've been using Claude more lately. So I use ChatGPT for conversational. I need to know about like talking to a really smart friend that could do a lot of research really quickly. Claude takes vast and large amounts of information, and it can disseminate it down really quickly. And so what I did with Claude, which I think is a hack, is I went through all of our members. So I downloaded all of our members, the amount of desks they occupy and what they pay per month. And then I went into Claude and I said, I had to chunk it because it was a lot of deep research, but I said, look for every single one of these companies, look for the parent company if they have one, and break them down into different customer segments: Fortune 500, unicorns, mid-market enterprise, SMB, and growth. And then tell me what my portfolio of customers looks like. And then he gave me, so I know exactly, like from my current portfolio, who fits into what categories. A lot of surprising stuff in there, Liz, that I didn't know from like there's a lot of stuff I was just thinking intuitively, but I actually had the opportunity to go through now and like really check out, put it into a pivot table and look at things like 84% of our revenue comes from enterprise for this company. And so that has ramifications like that. And then so I looked at the 5 different categories, and then I went through Claude and said, like, who are they? Who makes the decision? What's their pain points? What's their most important things? And I started looking at that. I said, act like a CMO and build out a marketing campaign that speaks to these groups exactly. And like, the decision makers and their pain points. It's like, you can really, it's like it is amazing information. Like it's just so, and as in co-working, we have access to our customer in a way that most industries don't, because we get deep relationships with them. And it's not like a restaurant, not like a hotel. It's, these are for a long period of time. So our company is big on enterprise. If your co-working company was big on SMBs or professional services or whatever it is, you should understand it firstly. And then secondly, you should really speak to your customer. Try not to speak to everybody. Like if your customer doesn't care about flexibility, why do you keep telling them if your customer doesn't care about, I wouldn't suggest that they don't care about hospitality, but if they didn't,
right.
Right? Like, understand your customer, speak to your customer, think about what they're thinking. What's like, I know what I get up at 2:00 in the morning and think about. What does my customer get up at 2:00 in the morning and think about? And how can I be a solution for that?
Well, and this is exactly what we were talking about at GC and what I've talked about in the mega trends, which is AI is going to allow you to personalize everything. So you will be able to really personalize how you target that customer. I'm even thinking of, I feel like surveys could get more targeted based off of that data. And then you just learn more and more and more.
And you think about the human connection. I really think, first of all, I think because of AI, the human connection is going to become that much more important for for building relationships, for sales, for trust, right? I think it is going to be huge. But I also too think that like AI can help me connect with you if I can understand you better, or AI connect with you better if I can understand me better. Right? Like AI has the ability to do all these things.
And we're not far off. And I'm shocked I haven't seen it yet, where there's like, maybe there's a pink check mark for if something is human generated, because everything's going to be AI generated. So what becomes very valuable then is what's human generated, because that's going to be the exception, not the rule. And like, I will say what's fascinating to me is how little super large companies, I'm thinking about airlines, are not using AI very successfully to help the customer service journey. So like I just recently waited on hold for 15 minutes because I needed to talk to a human because the AI couldn't figure out what I wanted. Then I called my healthcare provider. I just needed to change a name, the primary care provider for myself, and hand them a number. That's all I needed to do. It took me 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, what? Like the whole time I'm like, AI could have handled this in 4 seconds. What are we doing here? Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's like, that is the thing that absolutely confuses me. How these really large companies, medical and airline or industries, haven't really started using this very successfully yet. And like, in the US anyways, this has been the summer of disruptions and storms, and I haven't had a flight that isn't delayed. And it's like their inability to get information out in a timely manner is frankly bizarre to me.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is like Laura said on your podcast with her, speedboats are big ships, right? Like you're a speedboat. So you're getting access to the information, all the possibilities. You're like, how is it that Delta is not doing this, right? Or whatever, right? Whatever the case may be. But like, because you're thinking how it's not that hard, right? And they could do this, and it would add so much. I think in the fullness of time, which is probably not too long, it's all coming, right?
Yeah.
But I think to your point about the check mark, I think authenticity is going to become very important as time goes on.
I really and I called it. You heard it here first. Like the human stuff it's going to become more highly valued than ever. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. That's so I think we're in a good spot.
I love it, Kane. And I hear you're coming to GCUK. I'm so excited.
Yep. I'm having to thread the needle between a bunch of other travel too. But yes, I love GCUK. It's so much fun.
Oh, I'm so excited to see you there. And thank you so much for your time and everything you do, sharing your knowledge with our industry, because it matters. We need this. We need to help others come up. And you are somebody that does that. And I super appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Liz. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. All right, y'all, like and follow for more. We've got lots coming up, and we're switching over to video. Of course, we'll still have audio, but we're switching over to video in September. More to come. Stay tuned. Thank you for tuning into the GC Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and follow us for more GC content. You can stay connected with us on social media by following us at GC Global. We're looking forward to having you join us next time for more insightful discussions. Until then, keep exploring the co-working world with the GC Podcast. Ciao.